Hey guys, in this video we will be going over what series of transformations can we use to get a pre-image into the image. So in these problems, every pre-image, so your starting point is going to be your black shape, and you're going to take two different transformations to get to your image, which is the gray shape. So with number one here, I noticed from my black shape to my gray shape that it's been turned, right? So the long base starts sideways here, and now it's facing up and down in my other shape. So I know there's been a rotation. So going in that direction, that's just like a clock. So that's going to be a 90-degree clockwise rotation. So I'm going to start with a 90 degrees clockwise rotation. And I know my rule for that is that your coordinate point x, y will turn into y negative x. So I'm just going to take a couple points from my pre-image and try to plot that next step after that rotation. So my first point here is at negative 1, 1. So if I take negative 1, 1, this will turn into 1, negative 1, because the y comes first, and then the x comes second. Oh, sorry, positive 1, because it's negative here, and it changes signs. So 1, 1, so my new point is going to be right here. Now I'm going to take my next point over here. That's at negative 6, 1. So if I do negative 6, 1, your y comes first, so it will be 1, and then your x comes second, but it changes sign. So negative 6 will become positive 6. So my next shape is at 1, or next point is at 1, 6. So here's that, and I know that's my long base. I just plotted these 2 points, so I know that my shape is then going to be facing this way. So I'm just going to go ahead. This is a unit of 1, 2, 3. So I'm just going to go ahead and go 1, 2, 3, and then connect just to make my shape here. So I can call this A. My next shape that I go to can be A prime, and then the shape I eventually want to be at is A double prime. So now I see that this shape is the exact same as this. It just needs to be shifted over. So that shift we call a translation. It's just a slide. So I'm going to take my bottom right point and figure out how I get to my bottom right point here. So I see that I have to go over 1, 2, 3 to the right, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 down. So my second step would be a translation. 3 units right and 4 units down. So those are my 2 transformations to get from my black image pre-image to my gray image. For number 2, once again, I see that this shape has been turned. The long part of the shape is facing up and down here, and then it's facing sideways here. So I know there's been some sort of turn. So here, I'm going to have to rotate this shape 90 degrees counterclockwise so that it's up across from the gray image there. So my first step is going to be a 90 degrees counterclockwise, because we're going opposite direction that a clock does, rotation. My rule for a counterclockwise rotation is that xy becomes negative yx. So I'm just going to take a couple of my points and figure out what their new coordinate points will be after that rotation. So the first one I will do is this one right here, which is at 2, negative 1. So if my y comes first and it changes signs, that negative 1 will become positive 1, and my x comes second. So that will be at 2. So my new point is at 1, 2. The next point I'll do will be this one down here. So this point here is at 5, negative 1. This then will become 1, 5, using this same rule up here. So 1, 5, I'll plot my point up here. And as you can see, this horizontal part of my shape is now that vertical part. So this vertical part has now become my horizontal part. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units vertical has now become 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units horizontal. So my new shape will look like this. So once again, we can label, this can be our pre-image B, and we go to this intermediate kind of middle step B prime in order to get to our final image B double prime. Now that I have this, I see that it's just been flipped across this y-axis. That flip is called a reflection. So my second transformation is a reflection across the y-axis, because the y-axis is what it's flipping over. So the transformations that took place was, first we did a 90 degrees counterclockwise rotation and then a reflection across the y. And for number 3, I noticed that these triangles, they're a mirror image. It's facing diagonal to the right here and then diagonal to the left here. The only problem is one is up in this top quadrant and this one's down in the bottom quadrant. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to translate this triangle down so that it's directly across. So my first transformation that I will do is a translation, which just means slide 7 units down. How I got this 7 was I picked a coordinate point, so I picked this bottom one, and I want to line it up with my bottom one down here. So I saw that I had to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so that it was all lined up down here. So if I do this translation for all my points, this one has to go down 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now my third point, once again, goes down 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I will now have my new shape after my translation. So all I did was I took each coordinate point and I translated it, moved it 7 units down. So here's my pre-image C. My middle ground is going to be C prime. That's my middle step. And then last thing we're going to do is have to get to C double prime. So we said that this was a mirror image. This is a flip. So this is a reflection across the y-axis. So my second transformation is the reflection across the y-axis. Remember, you're always going to have to say, what did it flip over? In this case, it's flipping over your y-axis here. So the 2 transformations that took place was a translation 7 units down and then a reflection across the y-axis. And now you know more.